to satellite. Ooh.
Good morning, church. Thank you so much for joining me today. Happy Mother's Day to all those beautiful mamas out there. We're going to jump right into it today, church. We have some wonderful worship prepared for us today. So wherever you're at, if you're at home with your families this morning, if you're driving to the grocery store, thank you so much for being here, and let's start worshiping together.
You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yeah. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. Oh. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Oh, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Oh, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 That is who you are.
All right, church. Thank you so much, Christy and Isaac, for that wonderful worship that you guys prepared for us. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Mother's Day is actually the third most attended Sunday of the whole year for churches. It's following after Christmas and Easter. So I was thinking this Sunday, since we can't actually meet in person today, let's try and make this the most attended church Sunday of the year. And so I want you to go ahead and take this video and share it on your social media platform so that we can have more people joining us today, okay? So go ahead and quickly like this video, share it so that all the moms in your life can watch and join us and all their families. Alrighty. I have a little passage I'd like to read for you guys. This is Psalms 31, and I'm going to be reading from verse 25 through 31. And this is the part of Psalms where it talks about the wife of noble character. And I'm only going to read part of it just for time's sake. But as I'm reading through this, I want you guys to be thinking of women you know in your life who emulate these characteristics, okay? And those are the people that we should be celebrating this Mother's Day, these wonderful moms in our lives that they work hard and they do their best. So I'm only going to read part of it right now, but I want to encourage you to read the whole chapter maybe later today. And think about those women in your life that work really hard to emulate these godly characters, all right? Here we go. Psalms 31, verse 25 through 31. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, and her husband also. And he praises her, saying, "Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all." Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let the work of her hands bring praise at the city gates. I want you guys to really think about this passage. Maybe go home, I guess you're already home. At home, read through this passage and think about those women in your life. I think of my mom when I read this passage a lot, but I also think of all the women at church that I know, all the women who've mentored me over the years, women I've known through my work, through schooling, who've encouraged me and blessed me. And so please take the time to read through that wonderful chapter and think about those wonderful women that you have in your life, who've taken the time to pour into you, to bless you, to give you wisdom and advice. These are wonderful, godly women, and they should be praised for that. All right, it is time for our offering. So I want to ask that you please visit our website, givefac.com, to give your offerings and your tithe, okay? It's really important that we keep tithing and we keep up during this time. I know things can be a little bit tight right now, but that helps us keep our church going and it helps keep things running. So if you could please do that, that'd be wonderful. All right, I'm going to pray, but before that, I'm just going to introduce a quick video. We have a quick encouraging word from a couple of the men here at FAC. They've prepared some quick little messages for us about some of the women in their lives, and so I'm just going to pray, and then we're going to go right into their video. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today, Lord. Thank you for the beautiful weather outside and for all the moms in our lives, Lord, that do so many wonderful things to bless us and work so hard for their family, Lord. These are wonderful, godly women, and I just pray that they will feel cherished and loved today, that they will just feel blessed by the people around them. And Lord, I just pray that you give the rest of us really thankful hearts as we go forward into this week, into this day, and to be cherishing the moms in our life every single day, Lord. I pray that you would bless this service and bless the teaching that we have later. Yeah, in Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's go ahead and watch these videos and see what the encouragement the men have for us today. Thank you.
Hi there, this is Russ Johnston, and I just want to take this moment to thank my wife, Valerie, for being an exquisite wife and a wonderful mother to our 5 children. She is just the epitome of what a good mother should be. And also for our 6 grandchildren. She spoils them rotten like every good grandmother should. And not only our children and grandchildren, but her physical therapy patients that she sees, they all love her because she cares so much. She's just a wonderful woman, and I love her, and I want to thank you for all the years we've been together and the good care you've taken of our children and grandchildren. So happy Mother's Day, Valerie.
I want to wish my wife, Chris McKenzie, a wonderful and happy Mother's Day. Chris, I want to thank you for all the years that you nurtured and guided our 2 daughters to become the strong women that they are today, taking care of their families, to being a wonderful grandma to our grandkids, and for being a wonderful wife to your 3rd child. That would be me. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to my beautiful wife and the amazing mother that she is for many years to our 4 sons, their spouses, and our 3 beautiful grandsons. May your day be filled with blessings and lots of reminders of how much we love and appreciate you. Love you, dear.
Happy Mother's Day to Jennifer, the wisest, smartest, hardest working mother that I know. Intelligent, beautiful, keeps a clean house, makes us excellent food, loves our children, researching and learning and teaching. You're the best. I love you.
Happy Mother's Day, Mama.
We love you. Happy Mother's Day.
Wait for the dawn. Light up the dark. Let mercy fall. quiet. Be still and know the comforting one. Strength to your children. And we put our hope in the Lord.
He is our help and our shield.
In Him our hearts adore.
And your
Steadfast love,
how it
never ceases,
and your
faithfulness,
you
will never leave us.
you are
Steadfast love, never changing.
in your
Mercy, oh God,
you come
with the morning. Wait, as faith sings a song of what is unseen. You give us peace, and we put our hope in the Lord.
He is our help and our shield.
In Him our hearts adore. We adore.
And
Your steadfast love,
how it
never ceases,
and your
faithfulness,
you will
never leave us.
you are
Steadfast love, never changing. Your mercy, oh God, you come with the morning.
brighter than the sun. You come with your light, bringing us hope to lift up eyes.
Brighter than the sun, come with your light, bringing us hope to lift up our eyes. Brighter than the sun, you come with your light, you're bringing us hope to lift up our eyes. Brighter than the sun, you come with your light, bringing us hope to lift up our eyes. Oh, you lift up our eyes.
Won't you come? Yes, you come. Won't you come?
Good morning, I'm Pastor John Mutchler, and welcome to our Mother's Day service today online. We're so glad that you are observing with us and participating with us. And just a reminder, if you're part of our church family, we're going to have a Zoom meeting gathering after the service today just to check in with each other for about 30 minutes, and the link will be provided on our Facebook page. Our message today is 7 magnificent women who made a remarkable man. 7 magnificent women, most that I suspect you've never heard of before, who made a remarkable man. You know the man, his name is Moses. You might say, well, Pastor, why does it take 7 women to make a man? Now, you could take that 2 ways. The way that I mean it is it takes that many women to sometimes get through to certain men. This man, Moses, did magnificent and amazing things, delivering the people of God out of Egypt, setting up the 10 Commandments, basically his country's constitution, and establishing a nation that remarkably is still with us today. So I want to look at these 7 women, and each of them I'm going to give them an adjective or a word to describe them and suggest that summing up these 7 words describes a remarkable and wonderful woman. We're going to begin with a couple midwives. So you probably know this story already. It's found in Exodus chapter 1. And the context and background to this story is that Israel is in captivity in Egypt. And the way that happened was they went down there voluntarily under Jacob and Joseph, but they grew so large, they were fruitful, they multiplied to a point of becoming a perceived threat to Pharaoh. And so Pharaoh sought to oppress them and slow them down. He enslaved them, had them build big cities. They were basically slaves to Egypt. But they still grew, they still prospered, they still multiplied. And so Pharaoh got fearful. A lot of times people do awful things out of fear, and he did something desperate. We learn about it in chapter 1, verse 15, and this is where we're introduced to our midwives. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, and they were probably the head midwives. Certainly there were more than 2 midwives during the time of the Israelites in captivity, but these were probably the leaders. Their names were Shiphrah and Puah. He said to them this: when you are helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on the delivery stool, if you see that the baby is a boy, kill him. Of course, boys, because they would grow up to be warriors, and unspeakable things that would be left for the girls and the Egyptians, and we can imagine. And by the way, I'm going to speak about the unspeakable. We are sadly in this time of a necessary time of the Me Too movement, and women should never be mistreated, ever disrespected, ever forced or asked to do something they do not want to do. And so we teach that in our family, we teach that in our church, and we're going to use today just to remind everybody to be respectful and thoughtful so that in the near future there is not a need for a Me Too movement. So when they're being asked, when you see a baby boy, kill him, but if it's a girl, let her live. Now get this, the midwives, however, they feared God. Remember their attitude here. They feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned them, because he was suspicious, they were still multiplying, and he asked them, why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live? So basically, we find out that the midwives who have been letting these boys live are in a life or death situation before Pharaoh. And so they basically make up a story here. They basically lie to the king. Here's what they say. The midwives answered Pharaoh, Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous, and they gave birth before the midwives arrived. And now I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but we've all seen hieroglyphics of Egyptians have you noticed they're always really skinny? I mean, I don't know if they are or they aren't, but all the drawings on caves or on parchment or whatever, they're always really skinny. And so when they say that Hebrew women are vigorous and strong, she's probably contrasting to what they think Egyptian women look like. Perhaps they're just too, can I use the word frail, at least in this situation. They're vigorous and they give birth before the midwives even get there. I mean, before the midwives even get a cell phone call, these Hebrew women are giving birth to the children. That's what they're saying. That's the lie that they made up. Then it goes on and says, God blessed them for they lied and they were disobedient to the king. So God was kind to the midwives, and the people still increased and became even greater in number. And because the midwives, and here's the word again, they feared God, God gave them families of their own. So how do we describe these two midwives? There's Puah and there's Shiphrah and Puah. Because there are two of them, let's give them two words. I'm going to write down the word reverent and courage, or reverence and courage. It says here they feared God. This is not the kind of I'm afraid of God, but they revered God so much that they had courage. And out of their reverence and courage, they do what's been considered the first recorded act of civil disobedience in history. The first time that it's recorded that a group of people disobeyed government in order to save lives and to basically halt, for a moment at least, a genocide. So the first two women, Shiphrah and Puah, reverence and courage. Let's go on to the third woman in our story. We're going to be at verse 22. And it says that Pharaoh gave this order then. His plan with the midwives didn't work. Plan B. Every Hebrew boy that is born, you must throw into the Nile River, but let every girl live. So he gave this order to all the Egyptians. If you run across a young Hebrew boy, you toss him into the Nile, which, by the way, wasn't just an act of drowning and genocide. It was a religious act because the Nile was considered a god. It was considered actually a type of offering. It was a perverted, horrible religion. Now the story goes on in chapter 2. Now a man from the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman. And by the way, her name is Jochebed. We learn later it's Jochebed. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. And when she saw that he was a fine child, an exceptional child, and most mothers think that about their children, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it, put him among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. And you know the rest of the story here, that eventually Pharaoh's daughter comes along and rescues the boy. Interesting, the word here that describes this basket, it's used, I think, only a couple times in the Bible. It's the word for ark, same as Noah's ark. And I'm going to give her the attribute of faith. That would be the adjective to describe Moses' biological mom, Jochebed, is faith. And I get that from Hebrews chapter 11, verse 23. Hebrews chapter 11, that's in the New Testament, is a commentary on a lot of the Old Testament. And in chapter 11, we have this long list of people in the Old Testament that exercised biblical and godly faith. And Jochebed and her husband is mentioned here. And it says that she was not afraid of Pharaoh. It's very clear she's not afraid of Pharaoh's edict or his law because she had faith. And let's put it this way. Faith drives out fear and brings courage. Faith in God drives out fear and brings courage. And can you imagine to be parents at the time of Pharaoh, that you now know there's an order to kill your baby boys? And so out of desperation, fostered by faith and courage, she decided she was going to hide her child. She hid him for 3 months and then eventually made an ark or a basket to put him in the Nile River out of faith that something good would happen to him. So again, the third person in our remarkable list of women, our amazing Our magnificent group of women is Jochebed, who exercised. Now we just touched on the fourth woman in our story, the sister of Moses. Her name is not given here, but we find out later that she's Miriam, and she's an important part of Moses' life as he grows up. Let's pick up the story in verse 4, chapter 2. Again, the mother has put the ark, the basket, in the Nile River, and it says his sister stood at a distance to see what would happen of him. She's watching. She's watching. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and this is our fifth woman, but we're going to come back to her in a little bit. Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds, and she sent her female slave to get it. She opened it, and she saw the baby crying, and this is just an interesting side note. This is the only time in the whole Bible, 66 books of the Bible, that a baby is recorded crying. Oddly enough, this is the only time. And Pharaoh's daughter saw the baby crying. She felt sorry for him, or she had compassion on him. She goes, this is one of the Hebrew babies. She knew who it was. And then the sister asked Pharaoh, this would be Moses' sister. We're focusing on this marvelous woman, Moses' sister Miriam. The sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, she must have been in proximity, shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? Yes, go, Pharaoh's daughter answered. So the girl, that's Miriam, went and got the baby's mother, and Pharaoh's daughter said to her, to the mother, Jochebed, take the baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you. And so Jochebed, Moses' mother, took the baby and nursed him for a while. Isn't that cool how God is so gracious, so generous, such a compassionate God to do that for both Moses and for Moses' mom. So I'm going to call this woman, the sister. She's standing nearby. She's scanning the situation. She's waiting to see what happens. She perhaps is expecting bad news to share with her mother. Maybe the baby was going to drown, or maybe they were going to find the baby in the weeds, in the reeds, and then kill the baby. She keeps an eye on what's going on, and she, in the right timing of moment, she goes up to the servant, or perhaps a servant of Pharaoh's daughter, and says, I have an answer to your problem. You're not nursing. How about if I get one of the Hebrew mothers to nurse for you? So I'm going to call this sister, this woman, a wise woman. She may have only been a teenager, if that, but she is a wise woman in our story. She's resourceful, she's smart, and she is alert. And she gets the job done. And she contributes, again, to Moses' survival and success. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5, we just touched on it in our story. It says that Pharaoh's daughter, this is a really interesting one. Pharaoh's daughter went to the Nile to bathe. Her attendants were walking along the riverbed. She saw the basket. She sent for a female slave to get it. She opened it. She saw the baby crying, and she basically adopted the baby, becomes the baby's stepmother, and raises the baby. And the book of Acts tells us in chapter 7, verse 22, that she raised the baby to be educated in the Egyptian ways, and no doubt this was important to Moses. No doubt a key to his success was his cross-cultural education. Clearly, he understood the Jewish ways. We know later in life that he knew that he was Jewish. He knew that he was a Jewish descendant. He didn't understand the Jewish culture, but he was also raised in the ways of the world, the Egyptian ways as well. Acts chapter 7, verse 22 tells us that. And so this woman is driven by compassion. And I would say this, that a lot of parents, women and men, parents, that adopt children, become step-parents, or become adoptive parents, are driven by compassion, which is one of the most generous things anybody could do. For various reasons, children are unattached from biological parents. It happens for a variety of reasons. They're unattached to the biological parents, and so people adopt. And in our country, we have a wonderful compassion for adoptions, so much so that those of you that have attempted to adopt know how difficult it is, and very often, and wisely so, we go overseas for our adoptions. You know, we just lost a wonderful lady in our church just a couple weeks ago. Her name was Pam, and she adopted a couple wonderful kids, and she just passed away. But I knew Pam, and she cared for people, and she loved people, and she especially loved her children and her passion for being a parent. And so pray for these two kids. I love them. We love them. They lost they don't have their biological mom, then they've lost their adoptive mom, and we pray especially for them. But I knew Pam well, and she had a wonderful heart for her children, as adoptive parents tend to have. They've chosen to be parents, and they've chosen it with great compassion and great love and great mercy. By the way, the name of this daughter of Pharaoh, she's known as Bithia, and she's named later in the scriptures. And here's an interesting thing about Bithia. She was probably converted to Judaism, and it's very likely that Bithia left Egypt with the Israelites and settled into the promised land. We also notice that her name, Bithia, means child of God, or daughter of God. And there's a legend that's spoken about her that says this, that God said to her, "You had become mother to Moses, so I have become your father. You're my daughter," and thus she has the name daughter of God. She is well revered in the Jewish tradition. She is recognized as one of those people that have become what's called Ger Zadak, which means people of righteousness. These are people that are not of Jewish blood, who become converts or had become wonderful, righteous friends of the Jewish nations. Some of your people that were instrumental in saving Jews during the Holocaust. An example that we are familiar with now because of the movie, Oskar Schindler, who's credited with rescuing some 1,200 Jews during the Holocaust out of Germany. He would be a part of this group called the Ger Zadak, or the righteous ones. And so one of the early members of this group is Bithia, the stepmother of Moses. We're going to talk about her in just a moment because she's so interesting. Now, there's one other person in this group, not mentioned very often because she does not have a name. Did you notice the slave girl? She's mentioned in, let's find that here. She's mentioned in verses 5. It talks about attendants that are with Pharaoh's daughter, plural, a number of maidservants with Pharaoh's daughter. And then it says she sends one of them to grab the basket and bring it to Pharaoh's daughter. So there's not much said about here, and it's hard to make the case that she is one of these magnificent women that are involved with the molding and saving of Moses, but I'm going to make this case. There is a legend about Pharaoh's daughter, and it's in the Midrash. That's commentaries these are comments about the Old Testament written 100 or 200 years after the birth of Christ. Some of these traditions going way, way back. They go back close to the time of these events. In this Midrash, in this commentary, it is suggested that the reason that Pharaoh's daughter was heading down to the river, it wasn't just to simply bathe. She could have done that back at home. She was actually a religious cleansing, and let me push out a little bit further. In a sense, using kind of our Christian understanding, she was going down for a baptism. She was actually, before she saw Moses in the ark, in the basket, she was choosing to disassociate herself with her Egyptian heritage. She knew that there were some problems with it. She struggled with slaves and of the Jews, and she was heading to the river. And in this Midrash legend, the story goes that some of these maidservants, some of these attendants, as it mentions here, tried to talk her out of saving Moses. And the conversation sort of went like this. The maidservants would say to her, people are supposed to obey the king. There are people who don't obey the king around the world, but people of the king's own household, more than anybody else, need to obey the king's order. And she was, in essence, disobeying the king by rescuing a Hebrew boy. And in the legend, it says that the angel Gabriel shows up. Again, this is not in the Bible. This is outside tradition, the angel Gabriel shows up and knocks down all the attendants except for this one who is asked by Pharaoh's daughter to go to the river to retrieve the daughter. Can I suggest, and this is a bit of a stretch, I would not live or die in this translation or this interpretation, but I'm going to suggest that this is a very loyal servant, a loyal servant to the daughter of Pharaoh, and her loyalty to the daughter allowed her to go counter against the advice of her other maidservants who wanted to allow Pharaoh's daughter to do something evil and wicked and allow Moses to die. Anyway, so it's sort of a fun story to look at that way. So that's our sixth woman, and we're going to give her the characteristic of loyalty. She was loyal to the people she was supposed to be loyal to, and did not succumb to the peer pressure of her peers. One more woman, the seventh magnificent woman who shaped and formed Moses. This would be Moses' wife, Zipporah. We find the story of Zipporah. This is, in some commentators call this the strangest story in the entire Bible. And it is weird, it is strange, and I'm not even going to nearly attempt to unravel it all. I'm going to read it, and just at face value, you're going to realize it's got a lot of strange stuff in it, but still our focus is going to be, the focus in the story largely is on Moses' misbehavior. Moses not following through on certain promises that he made that were implied, namely the circumcision of the firstborn of his son, Gershom. So it begins in chapter 4, verse 21, and we're just going to read a few verses here. The Lord said to Moses, when you return to Egypt, again, God has already done the burning bush thing, called Moses, you're going to deliver my people. Moses has gone through a ton of excuses why he can't do it. God answers every one of them. And he says to Moses, finally, when you return to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all of the wonders I have given you the power to do. You know, the thing with the staff thrown on the ground becomes a snake, put your hand in, becomes leprous, all sorts of things that Moses has been empowered to do by God. But I will harden his heart. I'm going to harden the heart of Pharaoh. I prefer the word here, strengthen. I'm going to strengthen Pharaoh's resolve. That's an important distinction here when we look at what God did to Pharaoh. God hardened Pharaoh's heart so Pharaoh would resist and set up these 10 plagues. It seems kind of unfair, but what God was doing was giving Pharaoh the courage of his convictions. God was doing a number on Pharaoh's heart so Pharaoh would do what he really wanted to do instead of buckling down to God's power. Does that make sense? And that's what's happening here. I will strengthen or harden Pharaoh's heart so he will not let the people go. He's going to do what he wants. He wants to keep you. I'm going to give him the ability to do that so I can show my glory, my wonder, and my power. Then I want you, Moses, to say to Pharaoh, this is what the Lord says. Israel is my firstborn. And I told you, let my son or my firstborn go. And speaking here of Israel, Israel is designated as God's firstborn so that he may worship me. But if you refuse to let him go, so I will kill your firstborn. Moses is tasked with the job of telling Pharaoh, let my people go, or if you repeatedly defy me, eventually your firstborn, because you won't honor my firstborn, I'm not going to honor your firstborn. And that sets up our understanding for this really odd story coming up here. Hang in there. Verse 24. At a lodging place on the way from Midian, where he was to see Pharaoh, the Lord met Moses and was about ready to kill him. Where does that come from? Out of the blue. He just had a nice interaction with God, and God wants to kill him. Verse 25, but Zipporah, his wife, his Midianite, non-Egyptian, non-Jewish, but Midianite wife, took a flint knife and cut off her son's foreskin, circumcised Moses' son, firstborn, and she touched Moses' feet with it. And she says this, surely you are a bridegroom, a husband, of blood to me, she said. So the Lord then let him alone. There's a lot fewer words in the Hebrew here, and there are a lot of male pronouns that we're guessing who's being spoken of here. Some commentators think that God was going to kill the firstborn. There's a good case for that because it's about the firstborn. It's about Pharaoh's firstborn, Israel being firstborn, and thus Moses' firstborn. So a legitimate translation was God was about ready to take out Moses' firstborn. Or it could be Moses that was going to be at risk here. It doesn't especially matter, but I noticed here there's a lot missing. We are missing tons of details except for this interesting commentary. So it says that you are surely a bridegroom of blood to me, she said. So the Lord let him alone. And then it has this parenthetical statement in the NIV. At that time, she said, bridegroom of blood, referring to circumcision. There's like an explanation for part of the story here. And I'm saying to myself, that's the least misunderstood part of the story. How about a bigger explanation as to what's going on here? Well, we don't get it. And it's a hard story to understand, but it seems to be tied into the idea of firstborn, circumcision. This wasn't being done, and so God is going to bring judgment because people who are in authority, who have great responsibilities, are held to a higher standard. And if God's going to say to Pharaoh, you need to respect my son, God's saying to Moses, you need to respect the firstborn, your son, Gershom. Anyway, hard story to understand. I am not going to gloss over that. That's easy story to understand. It's not. But the bottom line is this: Zipporah is heads up. She is awake. She is aware. She's sensitive. She is watchful. She knows what's going on. And so she does the circumcision, which I'm sure she was not thrilled to do. I would say in our home we have blue jobs and pink jobs, right? This was a blue job, and Moses should have done it. He didn't, but she does it. She throws the foreskin at Moses and tells him that you become to me a bridegroom of blood. So here is another woman, the seventh in our narrative, who I think rescues and saves Moses and makes him the man that he is. So what word can we give to Zipporah? Again, she's being responsible. She's being reverent. She's being alert. I'm going to give her the word watchful. She is watchful. She's been paying attention. She's married this guy who's got quite a career ahead of him, and she's just watchful. So we're going to end our story with this, a recap of these 7 magnificent women. And I'm going to suggest that you are a lucky guy if you have a woman in your life, probably your mother, your spouse. It may be a person that you work with. It may be whatever that has these attributes, these amazing adjectives, descriptions. And I'm going to close the message reading these 7 descriptive words, but suggest they describe very well one of the women that we lost this last year around Christmas time. And I want to dedicate this message and the sermon to Dawn. Dawn fought a valiant battle against cancer. We miss her dearly. It's rarely more than 2 or 3 days that I don't think about her influence in our church, her wonderful family, her character, her commitment, completely faithful, an honorable and good person. And so tell me if you don't think, if you knew Dawn, that these words didn't describe her. Again, the midwives, reverent and courageous. Jochebed, Moses' mom, had faith. Faith that drove out fear. Number 4, Miriam. She was wise. She was wise. She was smart. She was wise. She paid attention, and she was resourceful. Number 5, Bithia, Pharaoh's daughter. She is righteous. She's the righteous one. She's that non-Jew that enters into the picture but helps rescue Moses and again saves a nation. She rescues Moses that by implication saves a nation. She's one of the Ger Zedek, the righteous ones. She's a righteous person. Number 6, the slave girl. She was loyal. She was loyal to her master, to the daughter of Pharaoh. And her loyalty caused her to do the right thing, bringing about the saving rescue of Moses from the Nile. And finally, Zipporah, Noah's wife. Not Noah, Moses' wife. And she's just aware, she's alert, she's watchful. She's watching what goes on, and she's able to watch because she pays attention. Thank you for watching today as we, again, looked at these 7 magnificent women who were needed to make and form this remarkable man Moses. Next week when we come back, we're going to resume our study of the 10 Commandments that Moses delivered to us. Thank you, and God bless you.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah.
Thank you so much, Dad, for preparing that wonderful message for us on those 7 wonderful ladies. We're going to have a church Zoom meeting at 11 o'clock sharp. Russ put the link for that meeting down in the comments below of our Facebook post. So please join us for that Zoom meeting for some wonderful fellowship with one another. Thank you so much, church, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.